Okay. Call the meeting to order. The meeting
This meeting is being transcribed and
excuse me.
summarized.
The regular meeting of February 2nd, 2026. Call the roll, please.
Curry,
Here.
Adel,
Here.
Anderson, Avedisian,
Here.
Mazzano,
Here.
Buell, Bush, Cortez,
Here.
Desai, DeBella, Drake,
Here.
Gale,
Here.
Bardo,
Here.
Gentile, here, Ely, Oheb,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
LaChance, Lester,
Here.
Lewis, here, Magnan, here, Mandyke, here, Maniscalco, Kane,
Here.
Patel, Salemi,
Here.
Taylor,
Oh, it's got his whole family with him.
Trini,
Here.
Torres,
Here.
Vargas, Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is approval of the meeting minutes from January 12th, 2026. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any changes, additions, deletions, revisions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
30,000.
Motion carries. And public comments, is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address the board on agenda items?
Hello?
Alma, I can see you. Yes, you'd like to speak?
Yes, I would. And I want to talk about what's not on the agenda.
No, we can't yet. This is only agenda items only.
Okay, I'll wait till later.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on agenda items? Independent consumer advocate comments and questions relative to agenda items. Liz?
This is Elizabeth Tavelli. I don't
Oh.
have any comments on the agenda items.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Okay. Reports from district chairman. Just three quick ones. Three of the committees have already met. PPI, they elected chairman, as chairman, Commissioner Magnan, and as vice chair, Commissioner Gentile, and for government, Commissioner Bazzano and Commissioner Gaudreau, and for Board of Public Works, Commissioner Torres and Commissioner Bazzano. So congratulations to those who are now holding office of their committees. And now, report from Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of items. I'm going to go real quick so we can get on to the agenda items. Number one, I would like to report last week we received our awaited $51 million from the state of Connecticut DEEP for the, lots of hard work from our staff to make that happen. And $51 million seems like a large a change order, but for a project this size and similar to other projects, the percentage was inconsequential to other projects of similar size. And we completed our project and no one got hurt or killed. So we're very thankful. So $51 million in the bank is great. I mentioned this earlier, Julie, but Jeff Bowers, our longtime employee, received the Alfred E. Pelican Award, which is honor an individual for hard work in the industry and leadership in the industry. And we were all up in Boston last week to thank everyone for giving Jeff. Jeff is right here. in the middle next to me. So Jeff's a great employee, and he's the manager of the wastewater treatment facility under Tom Tyler. Tom Tyler actually won this same award last year. I don't know if it's nepotism, Tom, or what, but our employees are considered the best in the industry, and this proves it. So congratulations to Jeff. Yes. We just met with the chair and co-chair and the chairman of the strategic planning committee, and we just updated them on the EUM, which is the effective utility management self-assessment, and we're going to be presenting that on February 25th at the strategic planning committee. I would like to bring to PPI. I talked to the chairwoman about issues. We typically provide an update on our annual spend on our Anthem, and especially on our looking for ideas how to save money on pharmaceuticals. Also looking at some significant changes in the state of Connecticut insurance, which I and Chris are on. You're able to declare after retirement. So if you have a life-changing event, spouse passes, children turn 27, you can change your medical life condition. Our employees are not allowed to do that. So we're looking at a way in this next go around with the union negotiations, and even not with union negotiations, but negotiations with our insurance companies to try to find a way to make that a reality and a policy through the board. And again, we're talking about, we're up for our union negotiations. Two of our unions, their contracts end this year. And so we'll be starting those negotiations in February. Chairman Curry has assigned Commissioner Kaltorres to that committee. So we'll be starting off with those discussions with them and bringing issues back to PPI as necessary. One thing, looking at the strategic plan, looking at the self-assessment, the one thing that we are aware of, we upgraded SAP in 2016 to 2020. It's time to upgrade it again. It's a forever occurring process. We must invest that money in our IT systems and our business transformation. We must continue to improve. So we developed a BET team as part of that process, but that was a part-time process. And so existing employees would meet on a regular basis to make changes in the system and to prioritize changes in the system. But again, it was a part-time role. We have since in 2025 got approval through PP&I and the full board. Now we have full-time positions that have been approved, and we will begin to fill those positions. And now, as part of our next upgrade and our BET process with SAP and GIS and other systems, SCADA systems, we will have a full-time team that will be working with us. So that's encouraging and exciting for everyone. Again, 15 years in a row, we have received CHRO approval of our affirmative action plan. The one thing that stuck out in the meeting that we have with the state is a gentleman recommended that everyone hire Rita Kelly. So, and that's true, 15 years in a row. She does a great job for us along with our HR department, Jamie. So thank you. And then last, do you have the OSHA chart? So every year we have to report our OSHA report to the state through PURA. And this was the first, we'll go do a full presentation of this, but this is at PPI. But this is just a great snapshot. If you look at recordable injuries from 2006 to today, just look at that chart and see the significant improvement that we've made over the last 20 years. A major credit to the staff that oversees those programs, and the inspectors, the supervisors, managers, directors in chief. So thank you. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the CEO? Move on to reports from our district council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, District Council. I just want to update the board on a couple of matters and certainly entertain any questions you might have. The first is the termination of our relationship with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers up at the Colebrook River Reservoir Dam. We have worked through, as you know, the accounting of monies that were owed or claimed to be owed by the Army Corps in terms of our ongoing obligation, notwithstanding the action by the Senate and the House, Congress back in, I think it was December of 2024, approved by President Biden at the time in January 2005. We've been through the negotiation back and forth. The Army Corps had until April of 2025 to submit a proposed amendment to the contract, which would call for the termination of the contract. In that amendment, they included a provision that we were to sign the modification or the amendment without knowing how much we owed them. It was just a blank number that, or no number that just says, once we determine what you owe, you got to pay that as part of the modification. That wasn't good enough for anybody here, and so we went through back and forth with the Army Corps. Thank goodness for our finance department and the hard work that they put into determining the amount owed. We had budgeted $800,000 for 2025 to bring this matter to a close. The number that we arrived at was about $120,000 less than that, so that's the good news, is we have it in budget and we're good to go. We went back and forth with the Army Corps in terms of additional language that they wanted. They submitted a request of me in December 5th, exactly, in 2025. I ran it through our staff. We responded to their request in the affirmative later on December 5th, 2005, to move this along. They indicated that, notwithstanding the fact that we all thought we had an agreement with Regional, that they had to send that up, or I should say down to Washington for the Army Corps headquarters and to run it through the AG's office, which they had run it through before, but now with the change, they have to go back through the layers of bureaucracy that we know as the federal government. So that being said, what we were concerned about was that more delay in their approving what we had thought was an agreed upon amendment would cause more interest and penalties to accrue. And that number that we had agreed on at about 680 would increase to somewhere in above 800,000. We were able to secure a commitment from the Army Corps that the number is the number, and that notwithstanding how much time they take to ultimately go through their bureaucracy, that number is not going to change solely because of the passage of time. If some other issue comes up, who knows? But in terms of delay, because they've got to get approval, we're not going to pay the penalty or a price for that delay. I'm hoping, I put a call in today to the Army Corps Regional Office to get some input, had to leave a message, but as soon as I hear something, obviously I'll let you know, but that is close to being resolved. We continue negotiating, also dealing with the Colebrook area, continue to negotiate with the Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy. Those are the people that have committed to paying $1 million in exchange for an easement over our watershed land. The easement basically says we can't do anything with the land except use it to provide a water supply. State statute provides we can't do anything with the land except provide for a water supply. So, but they want that belts and suspenders, and we've agreed through a memorandum of understanding to provide that. It extends not only to Connecticut land that we own, but also Massachusetts land that we own. We keep going back, and it's a very complicated document, as you can imagine. There's a lot of properties and parcels that are involved in that transaction. Keep going back and forth. Fortunately, I have a gentleman in my office, Carl Nasto, who's been spearheading the negotiations and changing language, been very responsive to their requests, whether it's yes or no or maybe, but we sent them what we consider to be a final version on December 4th of last year, and we hadn't heard back from them even until late last week. We put a call in, and they said, oh, we'll get to it. We're just really busy, and we hope to have a meeting sometime in March as a follow-up and hopefully get that resolved. And we're only talking about at this point, the Connecticut parcels, which of the 5,000 acres amounts to about 3,500 acres, but we also got have the Massachusetts, which has a whole different regulatory system, a whole different approval system than what we have in the state in Connecticut. That's going to be another task that is going to take some time, but hopefully we'll at least get the Connecticut one done. We're going to ask for partial payment on the for the Connecticut portion of the $1 million, and then we'll go on to Massachusetts. But that remains pending, and we hope to get it resolved sometime this year. So we have some cases that I want to go over with you. I won't spend time on all of those. I'll send you an email that outlines where we are on those. But the one thing I want to bring up is two things. One is the landfill cases. On your agenda tonight is the agreement with CRDA for the payment of some of monies to the district in exchange for a couple things, in addition to a stormwater pipe to service, at least in part, development along the Bushnell South area. There was also, we were committing to withdraw the Buckingham garage portion of the landfill complaints. That's all part of the settlement of, I think it's $3 million. Is it 3 or 4, Scott? $3 million. So that's, you had passed on that and you've approved that. We're now waiting for the MOU, the written document that memorializes this agreement. It's still with CRDA. They haven't indicated to me as of today that it's been approved by CRDA or OPM or DAS, the other two agencies that they have to go through. Hopefully, our next meeting, we'll have some turnaround from them. By the way, it's not CRDA. It's the other people that they have to answer to that is creating the delay. But that being said, I have no reason to believe that it's not going to be approved by those other agencies. They just haven't done it yet. Hopefully by the March meeting, I'll have better news to report. That's a long way of saying, Mr. Chairman, if that you can pass that on the agenda, I would appreciate that because it's not ready.
We have already done so.
Taken care of. Oh, news to me. Oh, well. And then lastly, just in case, I just want to give you a heads up, and this is the work of Attorney Myrtle and Attorney Harrington, who's our counsel, insurance counsel lawyer that represents us and defending us in a lot of these personal injury lawsuits. They had a case, and the names aren't important, just want to give you by way of example the work that we're trying to do in my office and to resolve things quickly rather than over extended period of time with extended cost. A woman slip and fall on a sinkhole. There was a claim that the NDC personnel that was out there working on a gate valve or something, there was a leak and caused the sinkhole and caused her to fall. The initial demand was $125,000. The medicals were in the $30,000 range. We had our people, Jason Pretemps at Utility Services, who executed an affidavit as to what happened in support of our motion for summary judgment. We sent the affidavit to the lawyer to give him a heads up that this is coming. And if there's ever a chance to try to settle this case without filing this and hopefully winning on the motion for summary judgment, it's now. We settled the case within my discretion of, I have authority up to $5,000. We settled it for $4,500. That's an outlier to some extent, but it's the kind of thing that the people that, it's not me, it's the people that work for me, with me, are able to get results that you don't see it every day. But it's worth, those are worth reporting to you, and so that you get an idea of where we're at. And then finally, we had I found out today that our legal budget is $175,000 to the good, so we'll be returning that to the general fund from 2005 to 2026. I say that in front of Mr. Jellison with a lot of trepidation, because usually when I report a surplus coming back to him, next year I get less. Because he doesn't, he says, well, if you can do it for that much in 2025, you should be able to do it for that much in 2026. Matter of fact, there's I don't know if any of you see The Office, but there's an Office episode about having a surplus and they have to spend it before the end of the year or they'll get that much less next year. I just want you to know, you don't have to punish me for that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, but we don't actually get the money. It's like.
Well,
paper money.
you don't get
It's paper money. It's paper money.
All right, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If anyone has any questions on that, let me know. If anyone has any questions to the email I'll send out, there's a lot of little other cases that I want to just keep you advised of. On any of the cases, let me know. You'll get that within a week.
Any questions? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on our agenda, we have a presentation from Evan Allard, the Director of Connecticut Intelligence Center on Cybersecurity, along with Jonathan Hales, Cyber Intelligence Analyst, and of course, our very own Bob Schwarm. So,
Good evening, Commissioners.
Bob?
Is it on? Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure to introduce the gentleman from Connecticut Intelligence that the chairman just introduced. They will be presenting a cyber threat briefing that will cover a lot of broad topics. We'll be following that with an IT presentation that will be much shorter and talking more about what we do at the district to maintain our posture against those threats.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Evan Allard. I'm the Director of the Connecticut Intelligence Center. Has anyone heard of CTIC before? One. That's usually one more than we get in presentations like this, so glad to hear it. We're essentially a law enforcement partnership within the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. We bring together federal, state, local, municipal, and private sector partners to share information and get the right information to the right people at the right time. So today and I want to thank you for having us here today. We're going to talk about a number of threats that currently face your industry, as it's one of the 4 lifeline sectors that we've designated as being the highest priority for allocating resources on our end. So has anyone heard of what happened in Littleton, Massachusetts, not but 2.5 years ago? I'm sure it's pretty common knowledge around here, but the PRC actively went after Littleton Water and Power, which is not far away from here. They picked them specifically because of the destructive harm that it would have. They picked them specifically because their IT systems were unsecured, and they were able to get onto their IT systems without notification, sit there, live off the land, and wait. And why did they do that? Well, they're pre-positioning for a case of kinetic conflict with Taiwan. So today we're going to talk about cyber threats and state-sponsored activity against critical infrastructure, and about ways that our adversaries are leveling the playing field. When I took this job, I come from a military background. I was an active duty Marine Corps intelligence officer for a number of years before joining the federal government as a senior intel analyst in Virginia. Wanted to move back home when I had a kid. So I've been in this role for about a year, trying to secure Connecticut, its residents, and its infrastructure. And I'm here today to tell you that no one is too small to be targeted by China or Russia, Iran, North Korea. When I throw around these terms, it seems very far-fetched and very far away, but hundreds of water companies across the United States have been targeted by these entities. Now, I'll caveat that and say CTIC has no credible information or no information or intelligence at this time that the PRC, the Russian Federation, or any other nation-state actors are currently on MDC water systems. But the potential there exists as they're trying to level the playing field with the West. Next slide. Oh, thank you. Not working. All right, so today we're going to talk very briefly about why these individuals, these nation-state sponsored entities, and these non-state entities are seeking to actually target these systems. We'll talk about land purchases and then go through some non-state actor considerations as well. So this quote here, I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but it is taken from a joint report from NSA, CIA, and then the Five Eyes nations. Right? It's very rare to see a report from the Five Eyes. I'm talking about New Zealand, Canada, all the English-speaking nations that collaborate on intelligence sharing. But China's campaign to pre-position access on critical infrastructure, tracked publicly as Voltyphoon, as the growing breadth and depth of their ability to compromise our infrastructure. The Littleton example, their Voltyphoon, their ability to do what they did on Littleton means that they could have shut off water for the entire city. In extrapolating that to Connecticut, You look at Waterbury, not, I think, a month ago. They went out without water for about a week. We had the Red Cross, we had FEMA, we had all kinds of entities flooded into Waterbury to try and get them to restore access. Now, why does Volt Typhoon do what they do? They want to get onto water systems, SCADA systems, and IT networks specifically because China still understands the United States military is the best the world has ever seen. And I don't just say that as a former, as a veteran, but they know that. So all of our adversaries seek to asymmetrically affect the way that we live our lives in the homeland. They know that if, in the event of 2027, they're going to seize Taiwan like they publicly stated they're going to do by force, they can't necessarily affect us totally with just a military defense. So they're seeking to asymmetrically affect us here in the homeland, to shut off the water, to undermine our will to fight back and defend Taiwan in that kind of scenario. Russia is the same. Since 2022, our support to Ukraine has been a real sticking point with the Russian government. And as such, they have continuously affected our cyber systems wherever they can, and not just our systems, but introducing disinformation campaigns around key topics to try and cause polarization and deconfliction amongst the various servers that we're seeing. Iran, in 2020, we assassinated General Soleimani. It took them 2 years to retaliate for that, and they retaliated in the cyber domain. Just this summer, we destroyed some of their key nuclear facilities. The government of Iran will retaliate for that. Matter of fact, we have a carrier strike group right now, led by the USS Abraham Lincoln, that is currently parked in the Middle East, threatening to potentially have strikes on the regime. As Iran does not have the capability to affect us in the homeland at the moment, the cyber realm is the only way that they can do so. And that's not even to bring up North Korea. They have been trying, we used to laugh at the North Korean cyber program. I remember when I was first introduced in the Intel community, the idea and the concept of a North Korean cyber program was a joke. Most of the citizens didn't even have internet. But now they're responsible for many, many cyber attacks on US soil. They've matured and developed as a program. And one of the key things that John Hale here, our cyber analyst at CTIC, is going to talk about is the way that the North Koreans have creatively adapted to take advantage of organizations and companies within the US where other state-sponsored actors are not necessarily in play. John, slide, please. So one of the most recent state-sponsored activities that I want to talk about is the purchase of a New England water supply abandoned warehouse, the Pennachuck water facility, for 4 times the assessed value. So this was last year. The Nongfu Water Company, which, by the way, if you know anything about the PRC, they passed a national security law. It doesn't matter if they're private or public, they all report to the government. The Nongfu Water Company recently purchased an abandoned manufacturing building and 23 acres of land in Nashua, New Hampshire on the Pennachuck water system. They purchased it for $67 million against the property's value of $15 million. They also finished the purchase right before a new New Hampshire law prohibiting China from purchasing land near critical infrastructure and military facilities. Now, why do I think I think it's important to start it off because it doesn't seem like it's that close to home. But Nashua is right up the road. Next slide, please. How could they use this? Well, they can use it in a variety of ways. This is a what-if analysis, which doesn't sound particularly analytic, but it's a structured analytic technique that we did with the Department of Homeland Security about how our adversaries can use foreign land to affect us. Proximity to a critical infrastructure site, a military base, a military installation, anything like that, gives our adversaries the ability to affect us asymmetrically. Whether that's UAS, if you've heard of Operation Spiderweb, that was a Ukrainian UAS operation deep inside Russia where they destroyed key critical infrastructure targets well within the Russian Federation. Or if it's for an adversary leveraged domestic real estate access to perform the launch against U.S. facilities. Now, next slide, please. Now, China as a whole is really what we're worried about. When we talk about foreign adversaries, China is the most dangerous, Russia is the most likely. Russia is actively doing this, China is actively doing this. But when it comes to what China is capable of in a 2027 scenario, And I'm going to reference the Davidson window. Has anyone heard of that before? It's essentially a study by a think tank in Washington that compares three key metrics: a declining Chinese population. They're getting older because of the one-child policy. They've lost a lot of their younger military-age population throughout the last 20 years. They're getting poorer. Their economy is doing worse. By 2027, projected to fall below 4% GDP. And then the last metric is we are catching up. We're building more ships. We're focused less in the Middle East. We are focused less on counterinsurgency and more on countering nation-state threats. Now, all that is to say, that calculus has long predicted that China will attempt to evade Taiwan by 2027 by force, if they're unable to do it by the diplomacy that they've been doing thus far. If they are to do that, they will almost instantly utilize these prepositioned typhoon campaigns, which, again, John's going to talk about a little bit more, to institute destructive cyber attacks against ourselves. There's three kinds. Everyone has probably heard of Volt Typhoon. I've been informed you guys have probably seen the 60 Minutes about Volt Typhoon. It's a growing concern. Since at least 2021, maintaining persistent access to critical infrastructure for potentially destructive attacks. The other two, Salt Typhoon, Silk Typhoon, largely responsible for their own functional areas to include intellectual property theft from critical infrastructure, and Salt, which is on telecommunications assets. But Volt, which again, I'll pass it over to John, is the one that, as a infrastructure of Connecticut, keeps me up at night. This is the one that I'm briefing to not just your water company, but Connecticut Water and the various other entities that I go around and I speak to about cyber defense. And really the only offense we have is a good defense against these threats. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to John, but of course you can ask us questions at any time. We'll be around here.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I do want to bring up just these different typhoon campaigns here. In the cyber world, you'll often hear code words used to describe a variety of activity. When it comes to China, the suffix of typhoon is referencing Chinese activity. So Volt Typhoon is that activity that's focused on your critical infrastructure areas and getting into that pre-positioning into networks, and the term that the director had used was living off the land. That specific term that's used there is incredibly difficult to identify because these actors are using the same techniques, the same softwares, the same mannerisms that your own individuals would use once they get into a network. They'll get in, they gain access, they'll run patches on your systems just like any of your other IT folks would do. They'll log in at the same times that your IT folks would log in on your networks. All of that to stay under the radar so that they remain undetected and can last as long as humanly possible. That prepositioning on your networks is the important piece for Volt Typhoon because they typically don't do anything malicious once they're there. They get in, they sit, they maintain access, they elevate their access so that they can preposition for potentially disruptive attacks and potentially destructive attacks against the United States should the U.S. respond when China goes into Taiwan. The Salt Typhoon piece here, those were focused on telecoms. We mentioned them because they were observed on at least 8 US-based companies. Again, they gained access to the networks, they lived off the land, and then they gathered as much information as humanly possible from those networks, which included call logs, unencrypted text messages, access to a variety of systems that the federal government used, and access to anything that they could gain in order to improve Chinese intelligence collection against the United States. The director had mentioned misinformation campaigns. China is really, really good at misinformation campaigns, and that sort of information that they were able to gain from these campaigns helped them make a better presentation in the cyber world against the United States. Silk Typhoon, I'll just mention very briefly. They focus on your traditional cyber espionage. They exist strictly for information collection and intelligence gathering against the United States. On this slide here, so we've talked about the Davidson window a couple times. We've talked about critical infrastructure. Volt Typhoon as a whole and their capabilities are very, very good against United States systems. They're incredibly capable at getting in and remaining undetected, staying under the radar, and collecting information. We've seen a variety of times where individuals and other activity that matches Volt Typhoon activity was able to get into a network and move laterally throughout systems and then gain access to SCADA systems where they're able to manipulate physical objects, be it whether they are on-off valves, pressure valves, etc. Once they're into the SCADA systems, they can actuate basically whatever they want and cause destruction that way. They haven't ever pushed that button, but the capability exists. We've talked a bit about the Littleton piece, so I'm not going to bring it up again. The director did a great job talking about that there, though. When we're talking about other activity and other nation-state activity, I wanted to bring up North Korean cyber activity. So for a long time, they didn't do a whole lot against the United States industries. They moved from standard intelligence collection via the internet over to cryptocurrency theft and fraud, and now their current ones are North Korean remote workers, where they will have North Korean citizens who will apply for positions, usually higher paying positions and high-end jobs within the IT sector. They'll use either AI-generated facades for themselves, or they'll have other individuals conduct the interviews for them. And then once they gain access, once they're hired, then gain access to your company, either pay individuals in the United States to run a laptop farm. Hey, thank you, I've got this job. I'm going to send you this laptop now that you're in the United States. I'll gain remote access to that laptop and then use that to log into my employer's systems and then exfiltrate data that way. North Korea has been incredibly successful at conducting this specific type of activity. And on this next slide here, we can see what some of that looks like. So the individuals that you see on the right there are some identified North Korean IT workers. They had all had multiple jobs within the United States and were using one of these laptop farms in an identified state to collect payments for the North Korean government. When I said that they would hold a couple of these positions, you'd see one individual with 3 or 4 different remote positions, all shooting in that $150,000 to $250,000 a year range, and then collect all of those funds and pass it to the North Korean government. That particular group that you see on the right was responsible for at least $3 million USD getting siphoned out of the United States and into North Korea. I want to talk briefly about Iranian cyber activity. Iranian cyber activity and Russian cyber activity that we've been seeing stateside here is mostly pro-Iranian and pro-Russian hacktivism. When I say the term hacktivism, you're seeing activity that is either changing websites, gaining access to networks, or gaining access to HMIs, the human-machine interfaces. Those are the devices that a person is going to use to change something on a machine or in a system. Think the touchpads that are on a big machine. Between 2023, November 23 and January of 24, during the initial phases of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, the IRGC, which is a portion of the Iranian military that it has been identified as the United States as an international terrorist organization, conducted cyber attacks that actively targeted Israeli-made PLCs, the programmable logic controllers, across systems in the United States. Most of those PLCs existed within the critical infrastructure realm, whether that was water and wastewater, whether that was electricity, whether that was the defense industrial base. Those are the type of items that they were targeting. The last bullet point on there is also important. So pro-Iranian hackers have gained access to and collected over 100 gigs approximately of emails, and then they use that to try to pressure the United States government to do what they want them to do. They use that all of the data from those emails to not only push their own information campaigns, but then to try to shape policy within the United States as it pertains to both the Israel-Hamas conflict and towards the Iranian government. The last pieces that I wanted to bring up here is ransomware. I have 3 groups that I want to highlight, and we'll see those on the next slides. These are 3 groups that we've seen within the state of Connecticut and have been very active in the last 2 to 3 years. The first one, Kilin, is believed to be a Chinese-operated group. You'll notice that Russian group. You'll notice the second bullet point that they operate a ransomware as a service type of business. They view themselves as a business. They operate like a business. They have their core group of individuals that generate and maintain the software, the malware that they're using to encrypt data on your systems before they exfiltrate that information and then try to get money out of an organization. Most of the, we'll call them popular, big air quotes there, popular ransomware groups operate this ransomware as a service model. That makes them incredibly dangerous because you have a small group of individuals who form the core, and then they sell that software out to a bunch of affiliates who are the actual hands-on keyboard operators who are going to deploy that ransomware against a network. We've seen Kilin multiple times within the state of Connecticut, both in towns and municipalities and private industry. Inc. Ransomware, again, they operate a ransomware as a service model. We have observed them all the way up through mid-2024. Their primary attack vectors, how they initially got into your systems, primarily through phishing, the compromised credentials, collecting credentials. You'll hear IT folks harp on multi-factor authentication and reporting those suspicious emails, the suspicious phishing emails. It really is important. That's how the bulk of ransomware happens. Somebody answers an email, somebody clicks a link, and then puts in a password. Now those credentials are compromised. Those aren't necessarily the ransomware actors who are conducting the initial phishing campaigns. A lot of those are done by your initial access brokers, who are people who specialize in collecting credentials and then selling them to the highest bidder. And then the last group that I wanted to mention is Lynx Ransomware. They're a relatively new group. They're the quote-unquote spiritual successor to Inc. Ransomware. When Inc. disappeared, Lynx came online. So mid-2024, we saw this group Lynx pop onto the network. They're using the same source code as Inc. Ransomware. So a lot of the similarities on the malware itself exist. A lot of the same behaviors exist. The question right now is, are they the same individuals? Very likely, at least in the core group. They also operate a ransomware as a service group, so at least the core is the same. Whether the affiliates are different remains to be seen at this point. The key points here, ransomware actors are constantly hunting for ways into systems, whether that's through compromised credentials via phishing, whether that's vulnerability exploits. They are always looking for a way into the system. So regular patching, multi-factor authentication, and active monitoring are all very, very key into preventing this type of attack. The CVE, the common vulnerabilities and exploits list that exists is a long list of vulnerabilities that have been identified previously. Most of them, I don't recommend reading through the entire document because it's several thousand long at this point. However, any of the vulnerabilities and exploits that are listed as observed in the wild are things to pay attention to, because those are vulnerabilities that A, we know that they exist, and B, somebody has used that to do something. That's kind of broad because a number of those vulnerabilities and exploits do a variety of things. However, when you have enough vulnerabilities, you can build a chain to eventually get into a system to then exploit that system.
And just in closing here, I just want to make it clear that a lot of this sounds dramatic, and it should. At the end of the day, I believe that we're in the most dynamic homeland security threat environment that we've faced since 9/11 right now. Just with the amount of irons that we have in a fire as the nation, right? From non-state actors to state-sponsored actors, motivated by across the spectrum goals from politics to financial gain. Right now, we are in a pseudo-arms race, especially with the advent of AI, as our adversaries seek to leverage AI to improve their techniques. We're doing it to make ours better as well. So happy to answer any questions that you all might have before I pass it over to Bob.
Any questions? I don't have a question, but I think most of us in this room are concerned about where our country's going and where the world is headed, and you've certainly compounded that concern.
That's my everyday, sir.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So before I start, let me introduce, let me introduce Josh Tryon, who's our Business Systems Administrator, or Business Systems Security Administrator, and Chris Taveras, who's our Network Analyst. They're going to be helping with the presentation tonight as well. So to start out, I'd like to clear up one question that often comes up, and ever since the October 60 Minutes article or segment came out with regard to Volt Typhoon that we've been getting, and that is that we have yet to identify this activity on our networks. We have a really good posture, we have really good tools, and we monitor things from the inside and from the outside through Homeland Security. And we have yet to see any signs of this particular threat in our network. Oops. Okay. What we are doing. So following the threat landscape overview you just heard, I want to spend a moment grounding this in what the district is doing at a high level to manage our cybersecurity risk responsibly and deliberately. First, we are continuing to strengthen our protection and detection posture by adding advanced solutions that address both external threats and insider threats, as well as the physical risks that we have throughout the district. Evan talked about some of the physical threats when it came to, drone activity and the things that we've seen globally. We're going to expand on that a little bit in the coming slides as well. This is not a one-way flow of information. We share with our partners and federal, state, and sector partners a lot of intelligence, both directions. It's a collaborative relationship that helps move and improve the collective awareness across the sector and across our national intelligence apparatuses. In that context, during 2025, we identified and responsibly shared 3 activity observations with the Connecticut Intelligence Center that fell outside of normal threat activity and normal threat behavior that we see on a routine basis. I can't go into the specifics, but this reflects our disciplined monitoring and appropriate escalation when something doesn't seem right. We've also seen measurable improvement in employee cybersecurity awareness since the launch of our training and awareness program. That's significant because people remain one of the most important lines of defense in any organization. The more educated we are, the more attuned we are to the things that we should be seeing and catching, the safer we'll be and the more secure we'll be. And finally, we continue to incrementally improve how we correlate and analyze security information across the environment. The goal is not to receive more alerts on a routine basis, but it's better context to support informed human decision-making. Taken together, this is about steady improvement, strong partnerships, and responsible governance while keeping operational details appropriately protected. That last statement is specifically because when we're under executive session and we're in a private audience where that information isn't going to be shared, we will tell and share a lot more information than we can on an open mic. The reason being is because the more we share about the products, the more we share about what our posture is, the more information and intelligence we're going to be giving our adversaries. So let me introduce Josh Tryon, who's going to take us through some of the threats.
So speaking to Bob's second point about industry partnerships, I attended the Water ISAC Threat Landscape meeting, which was last Wednesday. The Water ISAC is an information sharing and analysis center that's most focused on our industry. According to them, there's been an exponential increase in online communications in 2025, 2026 with threat actors discussing attacks on utilities. They also said that drones are being used much more frequently by threat actors, mostly for surveillance. But there's also cases where they've been used to drop explosives, mostly other countries, drop explosive chemicals or fly directly into critical equipment to cause it to shut down. Drones, as you know, have advanced significantly in the last few years. High-resolution cameras can get detailed information on reservoirs and dams. They can use this to identify weak points for sabotage or other physical attacks. And they're long range, so they can be high enough to not be heard or detected by our cameras or surveillance. And also the operator can hide miles away. There's a case that was reported to Water ISAC where a very large utility had a burglary where multiple thieves broke in and stole tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And the utility workers, after the fact, said that they spotted drones above the facility, so they were likely used to either monitor employee or guard schedules, and then the thieves knew when to break in. So Volt, Typhoon, and other nation-state actors were already covered by CTIC, and we spend a lot of time keeping them out. Water ISAC, though, says that domestic violent extremist groups are the most lethal threat to electrical and water infrastructure right now. Our biggest threat could be someone in our own backyard, which has to be a key point we consider as a utility. On top of that, the cyber analyst that presented for Water ISAC said, and I quote, "The water utilities are one of the most, if not the most, targeted groups." And one final point I want to cover from the brief is how the vast majority of operational technology compromises start from the IT network. The operational technology network is what runs all the equipment that we deliver water and services to our customers. And we put a lot of time into protecting that network, and we need to continue layering the security on both the IT and OT networks to protect the MDC as a whole. I'll turn it over to Chris Taveras now, who's going to cover how AI is being used to advance some of these threats.
All right. Building on what we just covered, I'd like to discuss a broader shift we're seeing and how threats operate both in the cybersecurity and in financial fraud. Historically, AI mostly assisted people, helping write code, draft messages. I think we're all guilty of little ChatGPT emails, or analyze information. What's changed is that AI is now carrying out large parts of these activities on its own. Last year, a major AI provider publicly disclosed an incident where a threat actor used an AI coding agent to actively participate in a cyber attack. The AI wasn't just advising, it was scanning for exposed systems, it was expanding access, and helping analyze stolen data. This marked a shift from AI as a helper to AI as an operator. We're seeing the same shift in financial fraud, particularly in cryptocurrency investment fraud, sometimes referred to as pig butchering. That term comes from the scammers themselves. It describes the process of slowly fattening up a victim by building up trust in the perceived relationship with over time, before ultimately exploiting that trust for financial gain. While we mostly see this occurring to individuals, we're also seeing an increase of this tool in consumer fraud. These techniques are used to manipulate employees and executives into taking financial actions on behalf of the organization, either through complex phishing campaigns or meetings with people who are almost deep-faked with another face over, kind of like how you pointed out in your presentation. The AI enables these campaigns to run at scale and over long periods of time. Attackers can maintain convincing conversations, they can impersonate trusted contacts, and adapt their messaging based on responses. This increasingly includes the generated faces, AI voices, and deepfakes that make interactions appear legitimate, such as impersonating an executive, a vendor, or a business partner. The key takeaway here isn't whether AI-enabled threats exist. We already know they do. The real question is how we respond. Just as attackers are using AI to increase the speed, scale, and persistence, us defenders have to close the gap. That's why our approach mirrors what we're seeing from leading organizations and governments. Artificial intelligence and automation are not add-ons. They are 100% part of our plan to defend against this new class of threats. The focus is on using automation to detect faster, respond faster, and continuously feed what we learn back into our defenses in near real time. With that context in mind, I'd like to move things back to Bob, who's going to discuss our evolving security approach and operating model to stay ahead of these threats.
Thank you. So one of the keys for us moving forward into 2026 is cybersecurity is not a one-time project. It's a continuous discipline that we continually evolve with. A major focus for us is workforce upskilling. Technology matters, but prepared people matter more. And we're continuing to invest in building cyber awareness, decision-making skills across the organization. We have our own internal exercises that we participated in recently through emergency management of facilities and black sky scenarios. And we also participate in exercises like Cyber Yankee, as well as other tabletop exercises and activities. These aren't about testing technology, they're about strengthening coordination, communication, and leadership response before an incident ever occurs. Cross-agency coordination remains essential. Threats don't respect organizational boundaries, so staying connected with state, federal, and sector partners is a core part of how we operate. Underlying all of this is a mindset of continuous improvement, learning, adjusting, and getting incrementally better over time. And finally, our approach is centered on resilience, not the idea of absolute prevention. The goal is to ensure the district can continue delivering critical services safely and reliably, even in the face of a changing and challenging threat landscape. That combination of people, partnership, and preparedness is how we position the district moving forward to prevent these types of events and to respond effectively. And that's it for our presentation. Questions?
Thank you, Bob. Any questions? Commissioner Torres?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You present a very scary picture for the future. And you spoke about intergovernmental cooperation as part of being key to a lot of this prevention. So I wonder, as you talk about, the things that are out there posing a threat, how does, or who is working with, for instance, the federal government in the areas of, for instance, things like TikTok or Alibaba? These are massive social media networks that can provide, as you know, better than I would, access to all of these other organizations and agencies. And quite recently, the administration, the federal government, just allowed the sale of some of the most advanced technology and AI to the Chinese. So, to me, where is it? It seems like there's a contradiction here. I mean, what is your take on what's going on between, especially as we talk about interagency collaboration? How is it that we do this and at the same time, get ahead of this situation when we ourselves are allowing these things to happen?
Yeah, so to answer your question, I think you brought up an important point, and if you have TikTok on your phone, I'd advise you to immediately delete it. As far as coordination, CTIC exists as a body to share information. So on my staff, I have FBI liaisons, CISA liaison, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We've got federal partners, state agencies, Connecticut State Police, judicial, probation, and then we've got a cadre of civilian intel analysts. So fusion centers as a whole were established after 9/11 because of the lack of information sharing that took place between the CIA and the FBI when it came to knowing who the attackers were and knowing that they were in the country itself. So we serve as a focal point to get information not just from levels of public government, but also from the private sector. So for instance, I think a really good example of this is just about 3 months ago, we had a water infrastructure coordination group where we had private companies sitting together with the federal government and our state agency, talking about some of these problems, talking about how to fix them, and then most importantly, advocating for for real change, identifying a path forward by prioritizing the things that we need to actually allocate resources towards. Does that answer your question?
To some extent, because this is a lot of after-the-fact kind of, effort. But what can we do to be proactive? For instance, to prevent things like, let's not sell our most, advanced AI technology to the Chinese so they can turn around and use it against us, in doing these kinds of things. Is there some kind of, from your perspective, from your vantage point, any feedback to those individuals that are making those decisions so that these things don't happen to us in the future?
Not at the highest levels of government. I would say for you guys, cyber defense. I can't stress it enough. That's really the number one thing that we can accomplish right now without these massive sale to China kind of things. Stressing a good cyber defense is the only offense that we have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
Just quickly,
Yes, Commissioner.
and this is for in-house staff. Are we adequately staffed to meet the need for the AI and cybersecurity going forward?
So I'm never going to answer that we're good.
Staff and funding.
We definitely have a strong team. We do more with less than anybody that I've witnessed in the industry. We have an incredibly strong team when it comes to Chris and Josh. We have done a lot with our networks, and taken a lot of guidance from NIST and CISA on how to secure our borders, how to secure our internal systems, and what to look for when it comes to the insider threat. But we could always use more. I mean, that it would be really shooting myself in the foot to say no. And not just myself, but the organization at large. I mean, our defense depends on skilled staff like this. And the more we have, the more effective and more broadly we can brush. And I'll give you for instance, right? We have a number of people on this side of the network, but we also have a lot of areas that we've identified that we can improve. And so should we have more resource, we could address things a little more proactively. But that's always going to be the case. And I didn't mean to answer something that makes my boss mad. But
No.
Any other questions? Mr. Godot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of a follow-up to that, and I know you're dealing with the folks from the state, are there, you're part of that, not NISTA, the other thing, but do you benchmark the systems that you have against everything? What's that process of benchmarking to say, yeah, we're good, at least for now? Can you just explain that a little bit, please?
Sure. So
I think you have it.
we have a number of tools that we actually get regular and routine reports out of that we assess the risks against, especially looking for the high and critical vulnerabilities. And we address those right up front. Those are the things that we target with the greatest vigor. When it comes to standardized testing or measuring against our sector or our industry of utilities, there is no effective way to do that because information sharing would have to be very transparent in order to do it that way. And most of us will not share what our tools are and what our reports are and what our collective risk is. The Water ISAC provides a lot of guidance. The Multi-State ISAC provides a lot of guidance. There are any number of those information sharing and analysis centers for every sector of our life here in the U.S. And what we do with that intelligence is we make it actionable and we turn it around to things that we have to prioritize and invest in. Oftentimes that may be a tool, that may be a service, that may be additional resource or additional upskilling of our staff. In any case, we try to minimize and mitigate as much as we can. We know that the saying is out there, right? If you haven't been breached, it's only a matter of time before you will be, right? Or you may have been and you just don't know it yet. And that is a prevalent thought throughout our sector and throughout all critical infrastructure. If you're not managing to that tenor, then you really need to find a new job. Because this is the day and age where this is a very critical service, a service that defends and protects all of the other services that underlie organizations like ours.
Any other questions?
And we do exercise on an annual basis with the New England National Guards through an exercise called Cyber Yankee, which we actually just sent Chris to the main planning conference for this year. It will be in Niantic at Camp Net, and we will be a significant player as we always are.
Thank you very much, Bob, Evan, and Jonathan. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your expertise, and thank you for doing what you do to keep us safe. Okay, move on now to number 11, which we are withdrawing from the agenda. We're not quite ready to sign off on this, as Chris has said. And number 12, Committee on MDC Government, consideration, potential action, appointment of 2026 legislative consultants. Chair recognizes Chairman Bazzano.
Mr. Chairman, the Government Committee met last Wednesday, January 28th. These two items were discussed and passed unanimously, and I recommend adoption.
Second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. B, discussion, 2026 legislative initiatives. Again, Chair recognizes Chair Bazzano.
Again, Mr. Chairman, the committee met last Wednesday, and this item was discussed as well and approved unanimously, and I recommend adoption on this one. I do want to say that we will have, the Government Committee will be meeting next Tuesday, inviting the lobbyists and consultants in for a discussion. So I recommend adoption of this one as well.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Bazzano.
You're welcome.
Bureau of Public Works, consideration, potential action, closeout of dormant sewer petitions. Chair recognizes Chairman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Bureau of Public Works also met on January 28th and did review and pass unanimously the resolution, and we recommend passage.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Number 14, consideration, potential action, establishment of special committee for procedure for performance review of chief executive officer and district council. I'm asking you, the board, to give me the authority to appoint 3 to 5 commissioners to serve on a committee to establish the process for conducting these evaluations and also for developing the evaluation form itself.
Move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Number 15, consideration potential action, settlement of claim. Head Keep Deep Singh and possible executive session. Chris?
No need for executive session, Mr. Chairman. Okay. So if I might, Chris Stone, District Council. This is a matter that involves a driver of a motor vehicle out near the Seville Dam in Colebrook. He was snowing conditions. He claims to have been sideswiped by another car, although there's no physical evidence of that. He lost control of his vehicle, hit our structure out there, part of the Seville Dam. Didn't do any significant structural damage to the dam itself, but hit the building and caused upwards of $69,000 worth of damage. We've had it repaired and fixed and the like, and it cost us $69,000 to do so. I'm here tonight because the driver, and it's been confirmed with Geico, had insurance on his motor vehicle with a $25,000 property damage limit. Geico's willing to pay that amount of money, the full policy limit, subject to us executing a release that releases anybody, in particular this particular insured, from any further liability. So we're asking and that the insured sign an affidavit that there's no other insurance available to compensate us on this claim. So the choice is, I can't settle this case within my authority. My authority is $5,000, and in effect, it's being asked of you to forgive $44,000 in additional damages. The gentleman who struck the offending driver, let's call him, for lack of a better term, lives in somewhere in Nix, New York. Chasing him for the additional money will obviously cost money. It may take some time. It's not time that we're unwilling to devote to this, but it'll take some time. The money that you receive, if anything, 2 or 3 years down the road is obviously worth less than the money that you could receive now of the $25,000. And so the choice is, do we forgive the balance, take the 25 and call it a day? Or if not, obviously then we would pursue the entire amount from Mr. Nix. The insurance company has an obligation to defend, so it's not as if any money is going to come out of his pocket to defend the claim, because notwithstanding offering the full policy, they still have an obligation to defend any lawsuit. So it's my recommendation that, and it's a tough one, to be honest with you, but I'd rather take bird in hand than not. But I'll see to whatever this body determines to be the better course.
Questions?
Yeah, I'm not an insurance expert, but can Geico by law provide someone with insurance to only $25,000?
That's the minimum coverage in Connecticut and
I thought it was
in
like
New York.
$250,000, but it's only
Minimum coverage.
$25,000.
They have to on the property damage, on other coverages too, but on this, that's the minimum they have to have. I'm sure everyone in this room likely has more than that, but that's the minimum they have to have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the district insurance, would that cover that particular?
We're self-insured.
Or is it way below any limit?
We're paying for it anyway. Our limit, it exceeds that anyway. So
Okay.
we're up in the $250,000 range, so.
Before, yeah. Thank you.
For you, did Geico confirm no umbrella over?
Yes, I have their deck page, just nothing there.
Mr. Torres?
I'm going to suggest that we cut our losses. I had to drive by that situation for months and months and months. It was an eyesore, it was terrible, and I can see this thing dragging out, unnecessarily. It's really probably it isn't worth the effort to try to recoup that balance from these people at this time. I would recommend just going ahead and cutting the losses and accepting the 25.
Form of a motion to accept as proposed?
I propose that we accept the offer.
Second.
Further discussion?
Secondly.
Commissioner Payne?
I agree. Just wondering, is there something that we can do to mitigate this from happening again? Did they hit the actual building? What was?
They hit a part of a structure next to or near the Seville Dam. That's.
I can explain what it was. It's as you approach the dam itself, the wall, that stone wall, that corner wall was hit.
Retaining wall for the bridge.
That wall. So other than putting some kind of barrier, in front of that, and that's, I think, the only way you could prevent something like that. But I don't know if that's aesthetically, that's something you would want to do. But I mean, that's the only thing that I think you could put up there.
And that wall goes all the way around the dam.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair. It's the retaining wall, along the sidewalk. And as Commissioner Torres mentioned, it's that first part, just as the bridge and the dike system starts.
Thank you very much for explaining that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Next, opportunity for general public comments. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on subjects, any subject related to MDC? Hearing none, seeing none? Commissioner requests for consideration for future agenda items. Okay, hearing none. Before we move to adjourn, I just want to take a moment. You probably noticed this is not John Myrtle sitting next to me. Victoria has done a great job filling in, hasn't missed a beat with, and I'm a needy person, so everything I've needed this meeting, she's provided to me, so thank you, Victoria. And with that, we've fulfilled our duties and the agenda is done and we are adjourned.
Wonderful.